on the last pod, when we talked about Sable, we talked about how awesome her performance was at that WrestleMania. Regardless of her experience level, her performance was amazing. And do you know what? And she deserved all the praise that we rightfully gave her. What a difference a year makes. Do you know what? I mean, I'm not going to put solely the blame on her for this, but my God, was this bloody dreadful. Sable versus Tori, yeah, it was just absolutely shockingly bad. And for me, brought up a lot of memories, and I almost hate to even take the piss out of it, but it brought up memories of Trish Stratus's sort of early days where she was really trying to wrestle, but God bless her, just wasn't very good, at least during the early stages of her career. They really did try, but this was just an awful match. I mean, before the match even, Sable got on the mic, and let's just say she isn't a natural on the microphone. It was very cringy. Okay, I kind of admire the fact that she was trying to get a line in there, and I don't know if that is a catchphrase. I'm assuming that's a catchphrase that she used quite a lot. The women who want to be me, the men who want to see me, and all that. But oh my God, did that just come off as just too cheesy for me? I was so disappointed. I mean, there was a botch with the powerbomb at one point, which, dear Lord, was that awful. I do think that some of that may have been on Tori, to be fair. I think she's going to have to shoulder some responsibility and some blame for that. I'm just really disappointed because, again, I thought Sable was one of the stars of the show last time, and probably one of the worst things on the show this time. How disappointing.
You're right. I mean, but for me, again, she was a casualty of Vince Russo's booking. Sable was a super over babyface. Vince Russo couldn't see any way to book wrestlers other than to turn them heel or swerve people in some way. And so that's what they had Sable do, is gradually just turn heel, forgetting the fact that there was no other wrestlers in the women's division that could be the lead babyface at the time. And also not worrying about the fact that there weren't any wrestlers in the women's wrestling. I mean, I say that a little bit flippantly. Ivory had turned up by this point. Jacqueline is still around. She was a good wrestler. But Tori, had had a sort of in and out career. She'd wrestled a bit sort of early 90s, but had a hiatus for like 5 years prior to coming into WWE. And then it was only really a wrestler then for 2 more years. So she wasn't really that experienced as a wrestler either. It just wasn't really sustainable as a roster, especially though without Sable to build it around as the lead babyface. But again, Russo didn't have that didn't care ultimately. He just wanted to throw things out there and hope that it would sustain things. So yeah, Sable being a heel was not a great thing for her. She was definitely not as big a star by this point, and it was a shame that they did what they did. And I'd kind of forgotten that she'd turned heel, to be honest, because it was forgettable. I don't think she lasted much longer after this either, and nor did Nicole Bass, who comes in during that match. Alex, what did you think of that?
Yeah, I haven't made a load of notes. It isn't very good, but I totally forgot that Nicole Bass comes in at the end. So I was quite surprised. So even though it was a bit pants, it did leave. I remember watching it at the time and thinking, right, well, that's something that we need to watch Raw for, to find out what Nicole Bass has got to do with all this. So even with a crap match, there is still something at the end which I quite liked. I did quite like. But yeah, I've got terrible dive to the outside, Tori can't punch, crap bridge, and Michael Cole says tremendous action for the women's championship. No, it's not, Michael. And that's my notes for that match. So yeah, no, not very good. But again, a cliffhanger ending, for want of a better word, I suppose.
Who the hell is Nicole Bass?
So she was briefly in ECW the year before, or maybe not briefly, actually. She was there for a while, I think.
That's what I've heard her name before.
She was famously the person who Joey Styles said she should be called Asia because she's bigger than China. That was
right, okay.
Is cool. I think that's what it was, either Asia or something else, some other geographic.
I didn't know it was her. I've heard that comment before, but I didn't know it was about her.
Yeah, and then she came in. She had a brief period where she was in a relationship with Val Venus, which happens in the next couple of months. I don't know how she goes from Sable to that. I seem to remember Sable was going into renegotiation for a contract. She wanted loads and loads of money. WWE weren't willing to give it to her. And then she kind of disappeared from television. So they had to do something else with Nicole Bass. And originally she kind of showed apparently some attraction for Val Venus. At first, Val Venus was kind of like, oh, I don't want anything to do with that. And then kind of apparently decided it took his fancy and they had a bit of a relationship. And then she left, and I think she left under a cloud because she herself claimed that there was some perhaps sexual kind of harassment within the workplace in WWE. I don't know. I can't remember the details of it at all, to be perfectly honest. But I'm pretty sure that's how her time ended. And I think she did file a lawsuit against WWE later on. So she was barely there. She spent about 2 months, maybe not even that, to be honest. And nothing she did lasted for any length of time. I think mainly because the Sable thing obviously went out of the window pretty quickly. It's not a very good match. It's not the worst thing on the show match-wise, but it nearly is. It was a shame because, as I said earlier on, Sable was a big star, but it just wasn't. She was a heel, and I don't think it didn't work. This is where I think, Matt, what you said when you first saw Sable talking, which is on the In Your House, would have been In Your House Over the Edge 98, when she and Mark Merrow had their match, where Mark Merrow conned her into thinking that he was going to let her win and then didn't. And you were like, she's got no charisma, she's not whatever, she's not exciting, she's got no talent, basically. The truth is that you're not far wrong. She wasn't that talented, she wasn't that charismatic, but it didn't matter because she played a character that people invested in. When they turned her heel, it now mattered. She needed to have some talent because otherwise she couldn't maintain the heat on her. She couldn't convey this heel with any kind of really real gusto. So that's when it really shone through. They just needed to keep her a babyface, and she would have been fine.